Hey everybody, I'm Christy Jordan with SeekingScripture.com, and I wanted to do a quick video with some tips and ideas and kind of some analogies to help you wrap your head around how to study the Bible, especially when you come upon that one sentence or that one statement that just doesn't make sense to you. It just feels kind of disjointed. So I've got a few things I want to talk about, a little tips I want to give you here, and I hope you'll find this helpful. First of all, we need to realize that the chapter numbers and the verse numbers were not in the original manuscripts. Those were added later to help us be able to find verses in the Bible and things. And that's very helpful, and I'm really grateful for them. But unfortunately, a lot of us use those as start and stop signs. So like chapter 11 comes to a close at verse 31, and we treat it as if, okay, a day is closed and a new story begins tomorrow. And that really presents an issue because the Bible is one continuous story. And there's several stories that bleed over into several chapters. So we've got to be careful not to use those chapter and verses as if they tell us when a story or a thought begins or ends. Those were added later, and they are purely for reference, and that will really help. A lot of times what I tell people is, if somebody gives you a verse, take a chapter. Better yet, take the book. Better yet, take the whole book. And I've got a couple stories here I want to share with you that will kind of help you understand what I'm talking about with that. First of all, I want you to imagine that I sent you an email. Okay? You open your email and your eyes fall on one line, and that's the line you read. Here's the line. The dogs will be killed. Immediately, you're like, oh my goodness, why is Christy going to kill dogs? Does she hate dogs? I love dogs. Is she an animal hater? I wonder if she abuses animals. Oh my goodness, why would she kill all the dogs? And you go in this whole stream of thoughts and emotions and just get all caught up with that. So let's read the whole email, okay? Dear friends, it's no secret that I love dogs, and I have a heart for trying to find loving homes for those in shelters. I'm writing to you because I know you not only understand this love and passion for the cause, but share in that with me. Recently, I have discovered that a shelter in the next town is operating on a shoestring budget. I realize most shelters share this predicament, but this one has a specific need that I think we might be able to fill. They have a rather large dog yard for all the dogs to be walked and exercised in. However, the fence is failing and in dire need of replacement. Since their location is alongside a busy highway, you can imagine what the outcome will be if the fence is not repaired or replaced soon. The dogs will be killed. I've looked into the cost of materials to repair the fencing, and it is easily affordable should we band together. Further, I think a good half day's work on our part could get this done without having to hire anyone. Please email me back and tell me what you think. Are you game? Gratefully, Christy. So, of course, I made this whole email up, but you see, when I took that one sentence out of context, it was an entirely different meaning. And when I put it in context, you see what I'm talking about. And there are places in the Bible where verses have been taken out of context and given to us, and we were told they mean the opposite of what they actually mean. This is why it's so important to read your way through the Bible, and we are going to see that. You will see that as we continue to read. So the number one recommendation I have is put that verse back where it came from. Whenever somebody gives you a verse, take a chapter. Better yet, take a book. Better yet, take the whole book. There are over 30,000 verses in the Bible. Now, we can pull any verse out that we want and just give it whatever meaning we want out of context, but we have to realize that every verse has the weight of those 30,000 verses around it. Context is so important, and we have to read our way to these verses. So the number one thing is when you have a verse out of context, put it back in context and see what it says. Read the verses both before it and after it. Understand what's happening in the book you're reading right then. How is the story unfolding? What has led up to this point? What am I actually reading about right here? Don't just pull a verse out and then try to figure out what that verse means. Because it's out of context. It is not tethered to the whole word when you pull it out like that. we treat a lot of the verses in the Bible like they're these disjointed things that we can just apply like a Band-Aid or something. And I say this because that's how I treated the Bible before I started reading the whole Bible and really studying it and diving deep. And Proverbs may be like that. And I think Proverbs is it's where we really learn that. You take out 1 or 2 lines in Proverbs and it's just like this whole little pocket of wisdom all encapsulated together. But the rest of the Bible is not like that. It is a continuous story. So if someone gives you a verse, take a chapter. Better yet, take a book. Better yet, take the whole book. Okay? Now I have another example that I want to give you, and this is something else that will really help you. I'll give you my analogy first. When I was younger, before I retired, when I was working for Time, I had what I refer to as my handler. They're based in New York. And so this was a girl who worked in New York. She was from New Jersey, and she was responsible for booking everything for me. She booked all of my appearances. She booked all my hotel, my travel, everything. And so she would get this all together, and I had a constant stream of emails from her. Okay, are these flights good for this date? Are these flights good for this date? And I would have to try to keep up with all that. And one day, as I was on the road traveling, I had just flown to a new city, I was confused, and I had the wrong itinerary with me. And so I had to call her and get her to look up and tell me where I was supposed to go for a hotel, what company my rental car was with, all this kind of stuff. And I could tell she was a little frustrated. She was a very kind person, but she would have been in the middle of something and she had to stop everything. And she was a little frustrated, not at me, but kind of with me over this whole thing. And I felt bad. And so I said, just remember, jewels in your crown, jewels in your crown. And she got really quiet. And she said, do you mean that I'm like acting like an entitled princess or something? And I said, no. And I explained to her that was actually that was a saying that meant, I'm sorry you're having to put up with me because you're having to put up with so much from me. When you go to heaven, you're going to have extra jewels in your crown, And that was what I meant. And so she thought it meant the opposite of what I meant. Now, y'all, we're living in the same time, in the same country, but in different regions. So it's very important, if a verse doesn't make sense, go to BibleHub.com, look up that verse, and read all the different translations there. Because we have all these different translations for a reason. People in different times and different cultures have different ways of saying things. So find the translation that makes it make sense to you. Find the translation that helps you understand it. A lot of times that's a big light bulb moment. And when I'm speaking to a certain audience, I will go and look over all the translations and find the one that I think will make the most sense to them. Of course, we can always use the interlinear tools to go look at the original Hebrew or Greek, depending on where we are in the Bible. So you can kind of verify that and everything. We are supposed to test everything. But we have to make sure, I hope these will help you. When someone gives you a verse, take a chapter. Better yet, take the book. Better yet, take the whole book. Read the verses before and after. Verses are not standalone. This is a continuous story. So see how it fits into that story. As we continue to read, you will learn more about the patterns of the Father, His character, what He expects of us, and how He expects us to behave. And things that don't fit into that model will really stand out to you. And you'll start learning how to test them to the Word of God. You see, the funny thing is, a lot of the things in the Bible, a lot of the examples we get, are actually examples of what we're not supposed to do. But if we don't know the foundational scriptures, as it's assumed we do, if we don't know the Father's commandments, we're not going to recognize. We're going to think these are examples that are okay. So we have to be able to test everything. We have to understand the complete story, and we have to immerse ourselves in it and really see what's going on there. We can't just pull parts out here and there. So put that verse back where it came from and check out different translations. Go to BibleHub.com. Put the verse back where it came from. Go to BibleHub.com, and it was likely going to be very helpful to you, at least at several points in our reading, to ignore the chapter and verse numbers. They were not there when this was written. So I want you to imagine, like the book of Deuteronomy, single letter. Okay? Imagine everything as a single letter. The Gospel of Matthew, single letter. It is one complete story. The day does not begin and end when a new chapter is marked. I hope you find this helpful. We are so excited to have everybody here. This group has been so encouraging, and I just appreciate all of y'all encouraging one another. The Father's doing great things in this group, and I love being able to grow closer to Him and study His Word alongside you. Iron sharpens iron, and I want to thank you for helping to sharpen my iron. May we bring further honor and glory to our King in word and deed in all we do. Love y'all. Bye-bye.